Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Todd. Thank you all for joining us today. It's great to be here again. The farmdoc team had a really good time in 3 in-person IFES meetings in December. And today, 1 month later, we will see the recent forecasts and information about the crop season in South America. The situation changed a little bit since then, especially in Argentina and in the south of Brazil, where I am right now. And by the way, we'll have a special guest here today from Argentina, Paulina Lezcano, a grain market analyst. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I will start. Providing an overview about the soybean prospects in Brazil, corn estimates in Brazil, and potential for future expansion. Then we'll touch in the crop prospects in Argentina with the help from Paulina, that's in Argentina right now. And in the end, we'll have time to questions and answers. I am now in Rio Grande do Sul, one of the country's southernmost states in Brazil. Just for your information, the temperature here right now is around 85 degrees, quite different from Illinois. So, and also in Argentina, it's summertime right now. So let's move on with crop prospects in Brazil. So as January 19, actually last week, 1% of the soybeans were harvested in Brazil, especially in the center-west states in Mato Grosso. Brazilian soybean acreage is projected to grow by 2.6%, the slowest growth in a decade. And the soybean crop is forecast to hit a record for the first time over 6 billion bushels, is 13% increase from last year. So here you can see the numbers regarding CONAB, the National Supply Company, regarding the soybean acreage, around 117 million acres, and also the soybean production over 6.1 billion bushels. As you can see, 2 years ago was the record with 5.6 billion bushels, and this year there is a very big chance that Brazil will break a new record. When you look the numbers from private consultancy, the projections are even more optimistic. Here we have some numbers regarding the January reports from Safras e Mercado, for example, over 6.3 billion bushels, Ag Research 6.3 as well, Exton X 6.2, Agro Invest 6.2, Cogo Inteligência 6.2, and Pátria Agronegócio, Pátria Agribusiness 6.1, more close to the CONAB forecast. So, but as you can see, all the private and also the public forecast so far is over 6 billion bushels. So we have favorable conditions, especially in the center-west states. Here you can see some pictures that were taken in Nova Marilândia, Mato Grosso, as you can see on the map. These pictures are from January 15, so 1 week ago. So as you can see, the conditions there is really good. Actually, there are some farmers that they are complaining that there are so much rainfall, especially in this time, that there are some areas that they already started the harvest. So is the concern is that could delay a little bit the safrinha, the second crop. We'll talk more about that. But when you think about the soybeans, the potential for yields is really good. So here you can see also in another region, a little bit northern in Mato Grosso, in Sapezal, where the conditions are really good so far. Again, a little bit of excessive rainfalls, but it's still really good in terms of yields. Let's see one video from Francesco Franciosi. He's in Mato Grosso right now, and he recorded a video for us with more information. Let's see.
Hello everyone, my name is Francesco Franciosi. I'm a farmer in Mato Grosso, Brazil. We have farms in Sapezal and Tangará da Serra, and the soybean crop is looking really good. Some areas we're having too much rain. Some farmers are losing part of their crop because of moisture levels, but overall we're expecting a great harvest. And after we harvest the soybean, we are going to plant the second crop, the safrinha, with corn or cotton. It depends on the farmer. And part of our farm in Sapezal, we already harvested the soybean and started planting cotton. And yeah, thanks for having me.
So as you can see in the Francesco information, so in the Center West, the situation is really good since the beginning of the planting season in October. So, but we have a kind of different situation in the south of Brazil, where I am, especially in Rio Grande do Sul, as you can see on the map. Remember, this year is La Niña year. La Niña year normally is not good for south of Brazil and also Argentina. Paulina will talk with us more about that, but typically in La Niña year, we have some droughts in the south of Brazil and in Argentina, and you have a lot of rains in the center west of Brazil. So this field is in the south of Brazil, very close to Uruguay. The situation is there. They have good amounts of rainfall so far. But remember, they will harvest just in April. It's different than in Mato Grosso. Mato Grosso, the harvest already started, but in the southern states, the harvest is 2 months later. So the most important month for these states is February. February will be crucial to decide the potential yields for the soybean crop season in Brazil. We have some drought spots, especially in the north west of Rio Grande do Sul, close to Argentina. So far, it's just concerns. Farmers are complaining that in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks since the beginning of the year, the amount of the rain was not enough. But they still have time to receive good amounts of rain, especially now in the end of January and February, and also have a good yield until the harvest in the end of April and in the end of March, beginning of April. So we'll see. In summary, different situations in the south of Brazil and center-west states. So let's jump a little bit in the global soybean trade. Here you can see the total soybean exports by the United States and Brazil. Last year, Brazil broke a record in soybean exports over 3.7 billion bushels. This year, the forecast that Brazil will export a little bit less than last year, but it's still 3.5 billion bushels. Here you can see a comparison with the United States. There are a lot of questions, open questions around the possible tariffs that the American government could put and could impact the soybean and the corn trade in 2025. So we'll talk more about that. So, but when you think about the exports performance in Brazil, they are based in 2 main factors. One is the amount of supplies. So Brazil had a record in the 2 years ago, a good harvest in the last crop season, and now again a forecast of a new record over 6 billion bushels. This is one factor. The second factor is the favorable exchange rate for Brazilian farmers, especially right now. You know that the Brazilian currency depreciation against the US dollar help farmers by making exports more competitive. Although there are other sides, it raises the cost of imported inputs, especially fertilizers and chemicals. But as a whole, when you have this situation, 6 reals to $1, that's is really good for exports, because Brazilian farmers, they export in dollar, they receive this money in dollar, and the conversion in real, they will make more money. Even though if the price of the soybean is not so good right now, they can offset these losses with the currency depreciation. And the market expectations indicate that the Brazilian real will continue trading at around 6 reals to $1 in 2025. So when you think about the China's share of United States and Brazil soybean exports, here you can see last year, around 73% of the total soybean exported by Brazil, the destination was China. When you compare with the United States, 52%. As you can see, in 2018, do you remember that was the beginning of the trade war between the United States and China, and the China's share of American soybean dropped to 18%. In that year, the China's share of Brazil soybean exports was over 80%. So here you can see in the last year, we're talking about 15 years ago, the different trends in the China's share of America and Brazilian soybean exports. We just talked about soybeans. Let's jump and talk a little bit about corn as well. As of January 19, 5% of the corn first crop was harvested in Brazil. Remember, when I talk about the harvest that time, is the first season of corn. So the second season, the safrinha, will be planted right after the soybean harvest. Now in the end of January and in the February and beginning of March. So when you think about the first crop season, the second and the third, 3 crops per year, Brazilian corn acreage is expected to remain stable. The total corn crop is expected to reach 4.5 billion bushels, a 3% increase compared to last year. If achieved, this would mark the second largest harvest in history. Remember, the safrinha, the second crop, represents almost 80% of the total corn production in Brazil. 18% comes from the first crop, that's right now, and more 2% from the third crop that's concentrated in the northeast states. The first crop is concentrated in the south of Brazil. The second crop, the safrinha, is concentrated in the center-west states, and the third crop is concentrated in the northeast states. Of course, the picture around corn is totally open because, like I said, farmers are starting the planting season of the safrinha that represent 80% of the total corn right now. So far, there are some concerns that the excessive rainfall could affect the safrinha because of the delay in the planting season. Do you know that the window to plant safrinha is very tiny, is very small? Sometimes 2 weeks or 1 week can change completely the result because of the dry season that starts in April. So there are some concerns in the center-west states that the harvest of the soybeans could delay because of the excessive rainfalls. And because of that, the planting of the safrinha could delay as well. So far, that's the picture. The corn acreage around 52 million acres, and the total corn production around 4.7 billion bushels. But like I said, corn is completely open. Here's some numbers related to total corn exports by the United States and Brazil. Remember, last year, Brazil surpassed the United States as the #1 in corn exports, almost 2.2 billion bushels that time. This year, we are seeing a completely different scenario compared when I say this year, sorry, I'm still in 2024, even though we are in 2025. These numbers is regarding 2024. When you compare 2024 with 2023, the scenario is completely different. Brazil decreased around 30% its exports. And the United States increased its exports over 2.2 billion bushels. And of course, again, the number one in corn exports. So the slowdown in Brazil corn exports, there are two factors that explain this slowdown. One is the recovery of supply in major producing countries, such as the United States, Europe, Argentina, also Ukraine. So all these major corn producers have expanded their production and exports in 2024. That's the reason that Brazil lost a little bit of this international market. Another factor is the decline in Chinese demand. This decline has contributed to a slowdown in Brazil corn exports too. Just for you have one idea, in 2023, Brazil exported around 600 million bushels to China. In 2024, just 90 million bushels. So the China's share of Brazil's corn exports fell from 29% in 2023 to 6% in 2024. Remember that China opened its market to the Brazilian corn in November 2022. So we are talking about 2 years ago. And in 2023, China became the main destination for Brazilian corn. But in 2024, Brazil lost this share because China reduced its demand from Brazil. So here you can see actually all these numbers that I'm talking about. 2023, the China's share of Brazil corn exports was almost 30%, and last year, 2024, 6%. We can see also this decline related to the United States, the China's share of the United States corn exports. Part of that because China is increased its production in-house. They are approving some new varieties of the corn and also soybeans, but especially corn. They would like to reduce its dependence of the international market and trying to import less corn. When talk about the demand in Brazil, because as you can see here, I'm coming back just to see the total corn exports by Brazil, see 2.2 billion bushels in 2023 and 1.4 billion bushels in 2024. So this additional corn, part of that went to produce corn ethanol. The corn ethanol production remains growing in Brazil. If you go back 7-8 years ago, the share of the corn ethanol was 0 in Brazil. Remember that Brazil used sugarcane to produce ethanol. It's different than the United States. But since 2017-18, Brazil is increasing the participation of the corn ethanol in the total ethanol production. 2023-24 crop season, actually the marking year, Brazil produced over 6 billion liters of the corn ethanol. So that means almost 20% of all corn ethanol, of all the total ethanol produced in Brazil. Is still a little bit more than 80, 81, 82% of the ethanol in Brazil is produced from sugarcane, and the remaining around 18% from corn. Here you can see that the Brazilian corn ethanol production by state, as you can see, Mato Grosso represents around 70% of the total Brazilian corn ethanol production. Mato Grosso do Sul, around 20%, Goiás, a little bit in Paraná, and São Paulo as well. Why in this region? Because in this region that there are a lot of safrinha, a lot of corn, so they also have ethanol plants, they can have two kinds of ethanol plants. The full corn that use just corn as input, and also they have the flex plants that they use corn and also sugarcane according the time of the year. Remember, it's not possible to storage sugarcane. So it's different than corn. So when they have the sugarcane season, then can use the sugarcane to produce ethanol. But when they have the off season of sugarcane, they can use corn in the flex plants. So I'm almost done with the Brazilian part. But before this question, we often receive related to what is the real expansion potential in Brazil in terms of the area. We know that it's not easy to answer these questions, but this question, because we have a lot of factors at play: international market, currency, Chinese demand. But there is a study from the Embrapa that show how many acres of degraded pasture land could Brazil convert into crop production without deforestation. When I say without deforestation, I'm talking about the land that was already opened in the past. This land nowadays is occupied by livestock. Is not native vegetation, is not Amazon. Most of the land is Cerrado, the Brazilian savanna. So there is a potential around 70 million acres that Brazil could convert from degraded pasture land, very similar that you can see in the picture. This is a land that nowadays is occupied by livestock, pasture land, grass, and could be converted into agriculture, either soybean or corn production. These 70 million acres, that's the potential, represent around 35% compared to the 23-24 crop season. And of course, in these 70 million acres, they already discount the legal reserve, that one amount of the land that farmers must to preserve. They also discount the preservation areas. So it's just the land that has the potential to be converted from pasture land to crop land. Here you can see the crop expansion potential in Brazil based on the degraded pasture land. So as you can see, Mato Grosso is the number one. There is a potential just in Mato Grosso that the crop land could increase over 12 million acres. We also see 11 million acres in Goiás, 10 million acres in Mato Grosso do Sul, a little bit in some states of the Mato Piba, Maranhão, Tocantins, Piauí, Bahia, and in Pará as well. As you can see in the south of Brazil, where I am, in Rio Grande do Sul, there is few potential. It's a very established area, like Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, where there is few areas to be converted from pasture land to crop land. So all this data is from Embrapa, the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation. So it's a very great study that they track all the potential areas that could be used for agriculture in Brazil. If you ask me, Joanna, how many years for that happen? I don't know. 10, 20, never. The market will say how fast will be this expansion. And also, I'm talking about the degraded pasture land, but also there is a potential based on the double cropping, soybeans with second crop, that could increase in Brazil. That areas that nowadays are occupied by soybeans in the first season during the summertime right now, and could be occupied by especially corn or other crops as a double cropping. So there is a potential plus 40 million acres. That's the double compared to the current crop season. So if you put together 70 million acres from degraded pasture land plus 40 million acres, we are talking about a potential over 100 million acres that Brazil could add in its agriculture. But again, we are talking about just the availability of land. We also have other factors at play: international market, demand, dollar, price of crops. So that's just the number related to land, crop land. Here you can see the comparison of soybean and second crop corn planted area in Brazil. So, for example, in Mato Grosso is the #1 corn producer and #1 in soybean production as well. There are around 30 million acres that nowadays are occupied by soybeans in the first season during the summertime right now, and around 18 million acres that are occupied by second crop corn. So that means that would be a potential 12 million acres that could be used as a second crop. So as you can see, the numbers regarding other states as well. Why we don't see any green area in the south of Brazil or in other regions? Because it's not possible to have double crop with corn in that areas because of the climate. In that area, the double crop normally is between soybeans and corn during the summertime and some winter crop during the winter time, like a wheat, barley, or other winter crop. So what does the future hold in terms of projections? Here you have very quick overview looking for the next decade. When you look soybeans, there is a potential in Brazil that the production could increase 27% in the next decade. Meanwhile, in the United States, the production could increase 8%. For exports, 30% increase related to soybeans in Brazil and 8% in the United States. When you look at the numbers regarding corn, 38% is the potential that Brazil could increase in production. In the United States, 6%. Exports, corn, Brazil could increase 31%, and the United States around 20%. Again, projections that given in account the situation right now, we should watch a lot of the factors, but that's the forecast from the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture and also the data from the United States from USDA. So a very quick wrap up regarding Brazil before we jump to Argentina. The soybean crops forecast to hit a new record, like I said, a record harvest and favorable exchange rate for Brazilian farmers. Good expectation for safrinha right now. If this good expectation confirm, will be the second largest harvest in history. And reduce corn exports due to decline in Chinese demand and more domestic use in the Brazilian market, especially for corn ethanol. So let's jump to crop prospects in Argentina. So we have some contrasts in Argentina crop season, different than Brazil. Soybeans and corn share the same planting period in Argentina, very similar than in the United States. So soybean and corn, they compete for the same growing area. Last season, you may probably remember, corn faced significant losses due to a disease spread by the leafhopper pest, which stunts the crop growth. Many farmers, they lost their entire corn crop because of this disease, and because of that, they are very concerned this season. So many farmers decide to increase the soybean area and decrease the corn area. And also we have the La Niña. La Niña introduced uncertainty in Argentina and in the south of Brazil, because we know that the phenomenon is associated with dry conditions. So what's going on so far in soybean season? Paulina Lezcano, that's here with us, will help us to understand even better the situation in Argentina. I just provide a quick overview. The planted area increased 10% in 2024-25 crop season to 45 million acres. That is the largest expansion in soybean planting since 2016 season, because of this disease that affect the corn last season. So the early soybeans are in good condition so far, but late soybeans are suffering from a lack of water, especially in the last few weeks. Some rain last week happened, but more water is still needed in the coming weeks. Remember, Argentina calendar is very similar than the calendar in the south of Brazil. So that means that in the next few weeks, February is crucial for the crop season in those areas. Here you can see the soybean acreage and production in Argentina. The area increased from 41 million acres to 45 million acres, and the production is projected to be around 1.8 billion bushels. So here you can compare the soybean fields in Argentina. So as you can see, good conditions for early soybean season. Here we have a picture sent by Silvina Cabrini from INTA in Argentina, in Pergamino, Buenos Aires. So this picture was took in January 15. We have one picture related to late soybean season. As you can see, there is a huge difference. Paulina will talk more about that because we have different scenarios in different regions in Argentina. What's going on so far in the corn season? So Argentina's corn planting is projected to decrease by 25%, like I said, because of the corn stunt disease. This decrease by 25% is equivalent to 6 million acres. This would mark the largest relative drop in corn acreage in 17 years. The corn harvest is projected to drop 16% compared to the previous season. We'll talk more about that because there are different forecasts around these numbers. But again, the factors behind this decline in corn is especially the corn stunt disease and the lack of water, especially in the last few weeks. Here you can see this picture from Buenos Aires province show one late corn and one early corn. As you can see the difference in the development. Here you can see the numbers regarding the total corn acreage in production in Argentina. As you can see, the drop from 25 million acres to around 19 million acres, and also a forecast for the decrease in corn production. So here we also can compare the corn fields in Argentina, one picture with water stress for late corn season, and one picture related good conditions for early corn season, one in Cordoba province and another one in Buenos Aires province. So very quick, before we jump to Paulina, remember last year we talked a lot about the new president, the new measure to try to face the inflation and the poverty situation in Argentina. So many things were done in 2024. So Argentina Central Bank is no longer printing money. The rate of monthly inflation has collapsed to low single digits. After last year, the inflation was over 200% in Argentina. I know that sometimes Americans complain when they have 5, 6, 7% of inflation, but you can imagine it, over 200 of inflation. So there are many changes in Argentina right now, but Paulina will talk more about that, but we can say that the country has started to show signs of a recovery in its economy. So very quick wrap up, increase in soybean planting and reduction in corn planting due to the corn stunt disease in Argentina. Early soybeans are in good condition, but late soybeans are suffering from a lack of water. Corn harvest is projected to drop. There is no consensus around this number. And Argentine economy has started to show some recovery during the President Milei's first year. So Todd can help me to say thank you for our sponsors, educational partners, and then transition to Paulina.
Indeed, we can. Thank you very much, Joanna. Good stuff, by the way, today. Our sponsors here for the FarmDoc program include the TIA Center for Farmland Research. Bruce Sherrick, an ag economist here at the U of I, is the director there. That's located right here in Mumford Hall, where I am. CoBank helps to sponsor, along with Compeer Financial, Corteva, Farm Credit Illinois, Growmark, the Illinois Corn Growers Association, and the Illinois Soybean Association. Our educational partners include, at the next slide, the College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences and the Department of Agricultural and Consumer Economics, along with FBFM and the Gardner Agricultural Policy Program. We're now joined by Paulina Lezcano. She is from La Pampa, Argentina. Thank you, Paulina, for taking time out of your day there. I want to say that Joanna in Brazil is 3 hours ahead of us. It is now 11:37 our time. What time is it where you are?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this special webinar. Here in Argentina is 14:30. 13.
Yeah, so that's 2:37. So you're 4 hours.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so first, tell me a little bit about yourself, please, and what you do. People who are interested can find you at paulinalezcano.com online. Are you a grains analyst? And how did you get into the business that you're in?
Well, yes, as you told, I am an agricultural engineer. I am grain analyst. My main work is to advise farmers to follow their commercial position, so they can decide when to sell the grain and how to cover it from the volatility. I give speeches. Companies hire me to give a talk in different countries. Even I was in United States. This is my main focus. I work in the business almost for 25 years until now. I work in a company, in an exporter, a broker, and finally, I work by my own as advisor.
Can you tell me a little as well about what you see on the ground in Argentina today? We talk about this often on the radio programs that I host, the condition of particularly the corn and the soybean crops. I know they're like here in the United States, they're in a wide range of growing season periods there. But can you give me a rough idea of how the La Niña has impacted growth and what your concerns might be for the crop?
Well, I think the La Niña wasn't so hard as we thought previously. And we, until I think until the beginning of January, we had a really good condition all over the country. And as Joana told perfectly, we have different situations. I think the main problem is in the north of Buenos Aires and south of Santa Fe. That is the main productive area of the country. This is a huge problem because that area, it has the worst scenario for almost three crops, one other the next. So this is the worst problem in our country. But if you go to other provinces, for example, almost 70% of the soybean and corn, we can have it in Cordoba and Buenos Aires province. We have different situations, but in general, we have a good condition in corn and soybean. And as Joana told us, the best condition is for crops that are in vegetative stages. And in the case of soybean, the first planted soybean, it is in general in good condition. The worst scenario for soybean is the second planted soybean that is planted after, for example, wheat. So the soil was without any water, and after that we have a hot period and without rains. So in general, I think we will have a good harvest this year.
That would
When you
not be
say
what the trade has been talking about, generally speaking, because you're following the commodity markets every day. Do you
Yes.
have a different view of, clearly you have a different view of the marketplace and what the pressure on it might be because of the size of the crop coming out of
Yes.
Argentina?
No, I don't have a different point of view, but I think we still have, we continue in the run. I think we have some losses that we can not recover. For example, I think maybe the Rosario Grain Exchange talk about 2 million tons of losses in corn production, but I think we still have the possibility to have 50 million tons of corn and 50 million tons of soybean. I think this is a good harvest for our country. I think what the market was seeing is the possibility that the weather wasn't getting more rains, and what we are seeing the last 2 weeks is different rains in different areas that are making the possibility that yields continue stabilize and not to continue falling down. So I think what the market was seeing, or the rally that we saw, is an opportunity for farmers to take that prices, because I think finally between Brazil and Argentina, we will have a really good harvest. So that is the way that I see it.
As a reminder, we're
yeah,
talking with Paulina Lezcano. She is in Argentina at paulinalezcano.com. Joana Colussi is with us as well from the University of Illinois. She's located in Brazil today, in her home state in the southern part of that nation. You have something you wanted to follow up with, and we have some questions too that are coming in from our audience that we'll get to. But you had some thoughts, Joana, that you wanted to include.
yeah, just to clarify, when you say early soybean and late soybean, how much percent of the total soybean production in Argentina are late and early, just to have that
Yes.
better picture? I'm not familiar.
Yes, 70%, almost 75% of the soybean production in Argentina is the first season that you call the early planted, is the first season soybean.
And they are
That's
in good condition.
yes,
They are in good condition.
yes, they are in good condition in almost the majority of the area. If you go to the north of Buenos Aires and south of Santa Fe, you can see some farms that they're lost almost everything, but in general, they are in good condition. The second planted soybean that represents less than 30%, it is in worse condition, but it is in vegetative state. So if rains come from now on, we can have hopes that soybean would be in good shapes, because they are, as you show in the pictures, they are in really first stages of. So if they receive good rains, they could have potential.
So I have a follow-up, and I was going to ask that same question, Joana, as well, with you, because here in the United States, we'll have something like 86.1 million acres of harvested soybeans from this last season, and that includes what we consider the first crop, which we simply call soybeans for the whole year, and then we have second crop soybeans, which are planted again after wheat mostly. Sometimes
Yes.
we refer to them as wheat beans. So is the second season just an abbreviated season in Argentina? I assume it's far enough south that the season's short
Yes,
enough that
exactly.
is the
Yes,
case.
they are short. They have a small
Yeah.
time to develop. Yes,
And
and as the same that you said, they planted after the wheat. So that is why this year, in La Niña year, soils were after the wheat almost without any millimeters.
And generally speaking, a much lower yield than the full season soybean.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly.
Good to understand. Thank you very much. So now let's
I
see
have
if we
just
can.
one last follow-up before you turn for the audience regarding the export tax, because I mentioned the Milei situation. I know that there are Argentinians that are happy, others not happy. Talk a little bit about the expectation regarding the export tax. That's very important for the revenues for farmers, at least.
Yes, exactly. We have two things regarding Milei government. In general, agricultural or agro sector continue to be supportive to Milei, but at this moment, agricultural, especially farmers, are asking the government to eliminate or to reduce export taxes. You know that in soybean we have 33% of export taxes. That means that a farmer in Argentina is receiving for their soybean $290 per tons, when you see international prices and it is almost in 40 and 400. So all the amount of these export taxes go to the government, and the farmers never see it. So in this crop, farmers are with a low return or even non-return. So they are asking to eliminate that huge taxes.
Let's turn our attention to some of the questions that are coming in from the audience. And if you have a question, you can tap that in to the interface. Remember, those boxes are the question mark inside the box, either up on the right-hand side of the page, or actually probably are at the right-hand side of the page on both your desktops and your smaller devices. The first question is that somebody had heard, and this is about phytosanitary issues related to the export of soybeans from Brazil into China, and that there may be some issues. I've seen that news as well. What do you know, Joanna, about the problems that Brazil may be facing with China at this time?
Yeah, actually, I have the same information that you probably have that from the news as well. It's specific some units. It's related to 5 companies. I need to check the name of the companies, but it's some specific units that they stop at the imports to investigate some issues regarding the phytosanitary. This information was confirmed yesterday, but so far there is no details about that. But it's important to say that specific some units is not related to all the imports from these companies.
So just a smaller portion of the units at this point. Because this is the time of the year, Joanna, that exports begin to flow out of Argentina, or out of Brazil, rather, to China primarily. When you are, as with the ag economist at the U of I, are studying what that flow looks like, what does it mean in terms of where the assets are put for shipping and how they move through, for instance, the Panama Canal or around Africa, and what China might do going forward to shorten those supply chains up? Brazil is one of those issues, I think, or one of the reasons that they have been working to shorten that supply chain up, and from the United States by moving to Brazil. But have you thought very much about this?
Yeah, we know that logistics is a big issue in Brazil, not just regarding the exports, but the transportation, the storage. When you think nowadays, the most important channels or the ways to move the soybeans out of the country is from the ports in the southeast, in Paraná, São Paulo, also Rio Grande do Sul, but also now in the last few years, 10 years, the last decade, Brazil is using more and more the north ports close to the Amazon river. So also there are concerns around to the harvest to be in the same time and could create even more challenge related to storage. So we are talking about one crop season over 300 million metric tons. I'm talking about corn, soybeans, rice, all the crops that we have during the summer time. So if you have a very tiny window and we don't have storage for all these crops, we are talking, it's the old problem. Every year we talk about that, and maybe in 10 years I will receive the same question regarding logistics. But many farmers need to use the trucks to storage the grain during the harvest. I know that in Argentina you have some challenge, but the logistics in Argentina is much better than in Brazil, especially Brazil is a big country, and also we have a high dependence of the roads. Around 60% of the grain transportation in Brazil is made by trucks in the roads. So, all the time the infrastructure is a big challenge: storage, transportation, and also a lot of lines on ports, even though if you use the Paranaguá port, Santos port, or even though in the northeast. Maybe Paulina can add something related logistics in Argentina.
Paulina,
Okay.
what do logistics in Argentina look like today?
Yeah, we are a much small country than Brazil, and the characteristic that we have is that almost 80% of the all grains produced in the country are shipped by an area of almost 100 kilometers. So we have a big concentration of companies and areas where all the trucks have to go. So this is our biggest bottleneck. It is okay in English. The bottleneck of our logistic is that we have to concentrate all the logistic in 100-kilometer companies that are located in the Paraná River. So this is our bottleneck, if you want. And as same in Brazil, almost maybe 90% of our harvest is moved by truck. So this is a problem too, and it is much expensive than, for example, in United States, that you use a lot of rivers and everything. So this is the common with Brazil. With Brazil, we have a truck dependence, and the difference with Brazil is that we have 80% of our going out to the other countries in one small area.
When you talk about the 100-kilometer area that you're drawing from, that's around the port at Rosario on the Paraná River, is that correct? Right.
Yes, this is the 100 kilometers is between the north port and the south port, no? But the trucks comes from 100 kilometers or 40 or 400 kilometers. But the area where are the 5 big companies in Argentina are in the Paraná rivers in a line from north to south of 100 kilometers.
I did not. And can deep port vessels make it all the way to the most northern portions of the Paraná, there, the top of that 90 kilometers to load?
No. Yes, this is other big problem, because we have that concentration and a big dependence on the Paraná River high water high. So if we have, for example, La Niña, or we have a drought problem, for example, in Brazil, in the Amazonas and everything, big ships can't go to the ports of Paraná River. So the ships have to finish the charge in the ports of the south of Buenos Aires. So we have a really dependence on the weather, not only to have crops, but to ship our harvest to the world.
Infrastructure is an important part of any nation's economy as it's related to its ability to export, in our case, agricultural products. Joana and Paulina, I would like both of you to think a little bit about this, but has the infrastructure investment in both of those nations, and Paulina, I'll start with you in Argentina, been consistent over time? And
No.
is it now enough to handle larger crop sizes because those volumes continue to come? And the same for Brazil, where I know there have been infrastructures made both in the southern and the northern ports. So Paulina, with you, has Argentina
Right.
done a good job?
No, we have a big problem because we are stagnate in production, in grain production, and one of the causes is the logistical infrastructure, that it is old and we didn't have investments in that area. So economy is having a better perspective with Milei. So we hope that with Milei, investment came to Argentina to improve that problem. Different to the Brazil situation, that they have a big production and they need more storage. In Argentina, we have over storage and we need to increase in production.
And in Brazil?
Oh yeah, in Brazil, when you mention 100 kilometers, that's nothing. When you think about Mato Grosso, from Mato Grosso to the southeast ports or even the north east ports, sometimes the trucks, they ride over 1,000 kilometers, 1,500 kilometers. So it's a huge country. So we have this extra component. But for sure, in Brazil, the infrastructure doesn't follow the increase in crop production in the last 2 or 3 decades. When you think about storage, there is a deficit over 120, 30 million metric tons for storage. In Brazil, we have the storage around 200 million metric tons and one production over 300 million metric tons. And the logistics, the situation today is much better than 10 years ago. So 15 years ago, in terms of roads, also there are some investments in ports, facilities, and waterways and railroads. The situation was much worse until 2010, 12, but still there is a lot of stuff to do to increase the capacity of Brazil, either for storage and also for transportation. It's a continent country, so very long distance, but the same problems for many decades. It's unfortunately.
One
yes.
last question, Paulina, for you. And I think you addressed this early on, but are you suggesting to producers that you advise that they sell their crop earlier rather than later?
Yes, I advise my clients to take advantage of the rally prices that we are seeing, for example, for Trump volatility or for weather climate volatility, because I think we continue in a situation where we will have a huge amount of soybean from Brazil and from Argentina too, but especially from Brazil, that is difficult to allow markets, especially in soybean, to continue to having a big increase. So my best advice maybe is to take advantage of the rally to begin to put prices, to put floors prices, so they are covered. In any case, we begin to see Mato Grosso farmers with the huge machines harvesting the huge crop. So this is my advice.
Thank you very much. And I think...
And I just say, remember that when I talk about South America, 170 million metric tons from Brazil, plus 52 million metric tons from Argentina, plus 12 million metric tons from Paraguay, a little bit from Uruguay. You are talking a crop season over 230 million metric tons in South America. It's a record. It's a lot of soybeans on the market. I know that's not a good news for farmers that like to see the prices going up, but when you see a lot of supply, I mean, there is no way to fight against that in terms of supply and demand.
We've been listening and watching a farmdoc webinar. Our panelists today have included Joana Colussi. She's a member of the farmdoc team, an agricultural economist here on the Urbana-Champaign campus of the University of Illinois. Paulina Lezcano has also joined us. She's a grains analyst and located in La Pampa, Argentina. Thank you both for being with us. You have a great day. Also, our thanks go to Jim Baltz, who's been behind the scenes here at the farmdoc webinar studios. I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason.